What's going on? You already know it's your boy, Little T. Back in full effect. You already know how I'm rocking, man. Hey, man, check it out, check it out, check it out. So we got that boy Jimmy High Roller. He got something called when you're best player in the world and when you're the best player in the world and no one cares. And I'm not gonna lie, he had Luca as the thumbnail, but I'm trying to get where he coming at. I'm thinking he's saying like, if you a real nice player but you got a bummy team, like a Tracy McGrady, I'm guess like that. But I
What do
don't
you
know.
call a player who is averaging 34, 9, and 10 a game?
Who the fuck averaging 34, 9, and 10? Who that better not be Luca. Luca averaging 30. Hold on, let me see.
On 62% true shooting, the face of the NBA, the best basketball
34, 9,
player
and
in
10
the
is
world.
crazy.
How about the player who is 4th on the NBA's MVP
Damn,
leaderboard at the
Luka.
moment?
Damn.
Player who is 4th.
Bro, I did not know Luca averaging 34, 9, and 10. Since when, bro? God damn.
On the NBA's MVP
That shit
leaderboard at the
nasty.
moment. 10 years ago, these numbers would have had a player in conversations as the greatest basketball player ever, let alone the MVP for a season.
No
but
bull.
now this stat line hardly even earns you a shot to become the league's most valuable player. Lately, I've been paying close attention to how the MVP race is
I ain't
playing
know
out
Luka
this
was
season,
averaging 34,
and it's
9,
going
and
about
10.
how you would expect. The season started out with Jokic leading the race, coming off a very controversial
Embiid
decision
came
last
up. It was
season.
Embiid,
Then
so he got
Joel
injured.
Embiid morphed into a basketball god for 2 months and buried all
Facts.
hopes of anyone else winning the award.
Facts.
And then he got hurt, and Jokic jumped back out in front and has held the top spot ever since, with currently SGA in 2nd and Giannis in 3rd. But as I was going over the timeline of the race this season, one thing jumped out at me. Why is Luka Doncic so low?
Yeah, for
I'm going
real.
back and looking at some of his performances and his numbers from this season, and
I ain't gonna lie, the
they're
Mavs
still
have been turning
completely
up.
unreal. So why is he all the way in 4th place at the moment? Have voters gone on a Luka strike? They all just collectively decided they're not going to vote for him? I don't know, maybe his play style is just too polarizing to reward. His game right now is often compared to prime James Harden, and we all know how that turned out.
Right,
but
right,
even
right.
Harden and all of his antics still won an MVP award.
Facts.
On the NBA's last weekly recap of the race, it seems they've taken a strong stance on his chances of winning the award up to this point. Sorry, Mavs fans, but the standings matter. We understand he scored 25 plus points in 9 straight games.
I
But
mean, they what ranking is they? They like probably like I don't know, what they like 10. I know they're like in the play-in round area.
flashy highlights
But yeah,
and massive
that ain't too
numbers
bad.
aside, Doncic needs to lift Dallas out
For-
of
for
play-in
30,
tournament
34,
territory
9 and
to
9,
climb near the top of this
34, 9, and
list.
10. I'm sorry.
But that isn't true, is it? In fact, I know it's not, because other players have won just as many games as Luka is winning this season, with worse numbers and less individual dominance, and they
Facts.
still went on to win the MVP. Luka Doncic is being held to a higher standard than anyone else right now, and I think we might be looking at the MVP award and how we value players all wrong.
And there's a story too behind all your MVPs. So you gotta have a good story. I mean, he do got a good
Today's
story,
video
but
is sponsored by DraftKings.
it ain't all about stats,
Tournament
bro.
time is officially here, so fill out your brackets and place your bets on who you think will rise to the top with
Usually
my
the guy with the
partners
best
at
story
DraftKings
wins.
Sportsbook. Right now, all new customers who bet $5 will get $150. Stay in on the action. Not yet available in
It's
your
either
state.
you got
You
the
can
best-
still get in on the action
you got the
with
best
DraftKings
team, the
Daily
best
Fantasy.
story, or the best
Download the
stats.
DraftKings
Go and
Sportsbook
win.
app now. New customers use promo code Jimmy High Roller and bet just $5 on any wager and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code. When Luka Doncic first entered the league in 2018, he immediately leapfrogged all the assumptions we had about his game and
Ayy.
his potential. By his
Yo, Luka
second
was
season,
skinny
his
as hell.
29 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists a game earned him first team All-NBA and a 4th place finish in the MVP voting.
Damn,
at
he was
just
gonna leave a
21
Harden,
years
wasn't he, you
old.
said?
By the end of his second season, the general perception was that this guy was the
Luka been in the
future
league
of
for a
the
minute.
NBA. An MVP award was inevitable, and it
Water.
would happen sooner than later. But Luka is now in his 6th season in the league, and despite
Damn,
getting better
6 years? You've
nearly
been in the
every
league for
single
6
season,
years?
his
God
place on the
damn.
MVP
You
leaderboard
know, it
has
feel like
only
6
fallen
years.
virtually every season. Voters seeming to become less and less interested in this
time
Luka
moving
magic.
fast, boy. Time
How did
is
Luka's
flying,
best
man.
case for the most valuable player
I remember
in
Yo
the
just got
NBA
drafted.
come in just his 2nd season and has only gone downhill since? Are we looking at the MVP award all wrong? Is it even possible for someone to be the most valuable player in the NBA while not elevating their team to a title contender?
Nope.
A question not applying to just Luka, but to any player in general. Where exactly is the balance between individual dominance and team success when evaluating the top talents in the NBA?
I think Westbrook kind of messed that up, though, because of the triple-double
year. Had a tough stretch of games and somehow fell to the 7th seed. Would we be willing to admit that Nikola Jokic is still the best and most valuable player in the league despite the lack of team success? Is it possible to get voter fatigue or even player fatigue before a player has even won anything? Here's a number.
I feel like just like how we did
41.8.
I feel like that's how we did James Harden. You feel me? Cause remember James Harden, he was putting up good numbers, but he was always coming like in second and third. He never really won it. And then we gave him like that one year when it was him and LeBron, it felt like more like, all right, let's just give it to him. You feel me? Like how we did with Joel Embiid. You feel me? Because it was Jokic and Embiid, Giannis and Embiid, and we found him just like, I mean, he turned up. Don't get me wrong, they both turned up, but we was like, fuck it, just give it to him at this point. You feel me? That's what I feel like Luka going through. But yeah, I didn't know he was averaging that much.
This is the number you get if you combine the average points, rebounds, and assists per game of every MVP winner over the last 30 years. This season, Luka is averaging 53.2 combined points, rebounds, and assists. The highest combined total since Kareem over 50 years ago in 1972.
Damn.
And putting up numbers like this usually results in winning games and winning an MVP.
Right.
Most of the players near the top of this list have earned the award for their efforts. Kareem missed out on the award in 1973, but he already won back-to-back MVPs in the previous 2 seasons. James Harden came in second in 2019, but he already won the award in the previous season as well. Luka, on the other hand, seems to be suffering from a rare case of voter fatigue before winning any awards.
That's crazy.
Raising the bar to first team All-NBA in just your sophomore season means every year after that must be even better if you really want to captivate an audience. And Luka has gotten better every single season. So maybe he's just not winning enough games. The unwritten rule about the MVP award has always been that you not only need to be great, but your team needs to be great. But this isn't always the case. In fact, recently, it's hardly the case. And voters have not
that's what I'm
away
saying.
from
The Westbrook thing
rewarding
messed up a lot of stuff
even if it didn't result in overall team success. In 1987, after just over 2 seasons in the league, Michael Jordan finished second in MVP voting ahead of generational talents and vets of the 80s, despite closing the season with a record below 500 and finishing the season on a stretch
it's Jordan, bro. Niggas used to dick Jordan. Not gonna lie. I mean, don't get me wrong. He was young.
He was unproven.
He's the second best player all time, but a lot of niggas, they dick Jordan, bro. Call him, like, I understand this nigga was nice, but I understand, I ain't seen him live, but calling him Black Jesus and all that shit, bro, like, I think they was just ODing on that part, bro. Like, Black Jesus? I'm not calling another man Black Jesus. You feel me? Like, what?
And yet, voters were still so enamored by his individual dominance that they just looked past the lack of team success. One argument you can make for this season is the fact that it happened nearly 40 years ago in a league where numbers like this were unheard of. But a similar case of crazy numbers and individual performance outweighing overall team performance just happened again a couple seasons ago. In 2022, Nikola Jokic won the league MVP after finishing the season with just 48 wins and the 6th seed in the West. His numbers were incredible, and his advanced metrics were even better. In fact, he was so good that the lackluster 48-win total was a bit of an afterthought for many voters. The only thing is, this season, the Mavericks are on pace to winning 48 games as well. And as loaded as Jokic's stat line was in that 2022 MVP campaign, Luka's numbers are just about as good this season. So how does one of these seasons earn a player his second consecutive MVP, and the other hardly even earn a player a spot on the MVP leaderboard? But I think the most glaring case of a player winning over voters with a historic individual season was back in 2017. When Russell Westbrook lit the whole league on fire for 81 games and averaged a 30-point triple-double for an entire season. This was just 7 years ago, and it's already easy to forget just how inconceivable this was at the time.
Man, it was Westbrook and nobody else, man.
There is not a person on earth who thought a player could average a triple-double for an entire season. So when Westbrook pulled it off, the MVP award had his name on it. And
now it's just on a regular basis.
The Thunder finished with the 6th seed and just 47 wins. In fact, James Harden and Kawhi Leonard both had strong cases to be the most valuable player in the league that season.
Especially Harden.
So again, what has changed between then and now? How did we go from being so captivated
so
with
much-
a stat line like this to just casually brushing aside a similar
And
season
more scoring,
in
more
just
offense,
7
bro.
years? But Westbrook's triple-double season in 2017
Hey,
didn't just
hey.
shatter our ideas of what were possible from an
Westbrook was
individual
nasty
player.
in his prime,
season
boy.
completely altered the way MVP voting works altogether. Up until Westbrook's 2017 season,
low-key
the
don't
MVP
like the new,
award was virtually the
new
best
MVP.
player
I like
on
the old school
best
better. I don't
team
know
award.
why.
If your team
It just got
wasn't
that
the
old
first
classic
seed
look.
or
That's
on
why I like the old
occasion the
MVP.
second seed going into the playoffs, your chances of winning the award were almost non-existent. From 1988 to 2016, 23 of 29 regular season MVPs went to players who led their team to the best record in their conference. 5 of the 29 MVPs went to players who earned the second seed, and only 1 went to a player who didn't lead their team to a top 2 seed. But with Westbrook's MVP in 2017, voters of the award and fans in general almost recalibrated the way they approached the discussion of who the most valuable player in the league can be and what is required of them. Because 4 of the last 7 MVPs finished the season with the 3rd seed or lower. This season, Jokic is favored to win the award, and the Nuggets are on pace to finishing the season with the 3rd seed as well.
Or first.
Something that only occurred once in 37 seasons and required the best player of all time to put up the best individual season of his career is about to happen for the 5th time in just 8 years. It's almost as if overnight we all realized that winning the most games is not the end-all be-all to what makes a player the most valuable.
Facts.
10 years ago, an NBA fan posted this on Reddit.
What is that?
And reading it is almost like jumping into a time machine and traveling into the past. He goes on to list the last 30 MVP winners and the seed they earned going into the playoffs, recognizing the correlation between winning the most games and winning the MVP. And he posted this with a note at the end that tells you everything you need to know about how the award worked just 10 years ago. I put this on here so people hopefully stop making unlikely MVP predictions. No, Anthony Davis is not going to lead the Pelicans to the 5th seed and win MVP. And the comments on this thread are just as insightful as the post itself. So is it really an MVP award? In theory, yes, but maybe it's more of a best player on the best team. Players do not win MVPs getting 6th seeds, overwhelming majority of the time, because this is a superstar league.
I mean, yeah, bro, it's true, bro. I mean, like, that's what I say. Westbrook, he was just an exception, because, like, we never seen, ever since Oscar Robertson, we ain't never seen no triple-double happen, so it was just like, oh, my God, yo, averaging a triple-double. You feel me? Like, we got to give it to him. But other than that, yeah, it's usually if you in the top 1 to 3 seed, I'm gonna go as low as 3 seed, 1 to 3 seed. You got to be in that round to at least be even considered MVP.
Superstars get top seeds. And this fan is right. Or at least he was 10 years ago. So why did we make exceptions for other players and continue to do so, but we hold Luka to such a strict standard?
Yeah, I didn't know
If the
Luka was
Mavs went on
averaging
a
that,
nice
yeah.
stretch of wins to close out the season and finish with, let's say, 53 wins instead of 48.
Oh, yeah,
finished
they're in
with the
4th. Yeah,
4th
yeah,
seed
yeah, yeah.
instead
He
of
should
the
definitely get
6th.
some counts.
Would that really help Luka's case? The
Probably.
Mavs could have an easy schedule to close out the season. Kyrie could go on a tear. The team could get into a rhythm and earn a higher seed, and Luka could be playing at the same level he did all
Damn.
season. But since they're winning more games, none of
They
which
don't-
had anything
yeah,
to
they
do
don't
with
notice
Luka playing
more.
better, he would miraculously have a better case for the MVP.
Yeah, it sounds
I know
dumb,
this
but
is how
yeah.
it works. This is the nature of this award. But it's still a bit odd that there is so much weight put into some factors when considering who the most valuable player in the league is. And the season Luka is having in particular is shining a massive light on this irrational way of going about this. Is Jason Tatum more valuable than Luka this season? You could.
Ooh, Jason Tatum more valuable than Luka? Nah, Luka more valuable. Because if you take Luka off the Mavericks, they always at the bottom, bro. They at the bottom. They like down there with like the Rockets. You feel me? Like a 10th, 11th, maybe 12th seed. You take Tatum off the Celtics, they probably drop down to like the 7th seed. But it's another thing because he in the East and they're in the West. So nah. I'm gonna go and say Luka more valuable than Jason
Make the
Tatum.
argument, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who would, including the NBA's MVP leaderboard. And yet, Luka has been more valuable this season, according to virtually every single metric
feel that.
other than win totals. Jason Tatum has missed 5 games this season, and in those games, the Celtics have
how many
outscored
games
their
have Luka
opponents
missed?
by 77 points.
Damn.
This season, Luka has missed 8 games,
Okay.
and in those games, the Mavericks have been outscored by 47 points.
Damn, what the fuck?
When Jason Tatum isn't on the court, the Celtics are plus 10.1 points per 100 possessions this season.
Yeah, that team
When
nasty.
Luka
They
isn't on the
nasty
court,
altogether.
the Mavericks are minus 2.8
Yeah, the
points
Mavs pretty much
per
Luka
100
and
possessions
Kyrie,
this
and then
season. When
a
Tatum
little bit
isn't
of
on the court,
Hardaway
the
and then
Celtics
some
are
role
still
players.
really good. When Luka isn't on the court, the Mavericks are terrible.
Yeah, facts.
To look at how many wins a team has as the driving factor for the MVP race neglects how teams even got those wins and how much the best player
Yeah,
on
because
that
you put
team
Luka on
is
that Celtics
contributing
team, yeah,
to those wins.
that's gonna be a problem.
Now, this season might actually be a case of the league getting a whole lot better, or maybe just the stats getting better, rather than voters and fans appreciating different aspects of the game and its players than they did in the past. The threshold for what it takes to make, let's say, an All-NBA team, earn the label of superstar, and win the league's MVP has been raised so high that a player could have a one-of-one, unprecedented season and not even get a mention as one of the league's best players. A great case of this is Domantas Sabonis.
For
who is
real, he
averaging
averaged the most
20
triple-doubles.
points, 13 rebounds,
He had the most triple-doubles
and
this season.
8 assists a game right now.
And nobody
he
not even
wasn't
talking
even
about it.
selected as an all-star this season.
It's too
These
many
are
spots
not
to
empty
fill, bro. It's
stats.
too many hitters.
He's not a product of the system he plays in. He is a certified star. But since there's a guy in the league who can do all of this and more, he ends up being unjustly labeled as the watered-down version of Nikola Jokic. It feels a bit surreal that we live in a time where a player like Luka Doncic exists, with numbers like these, and the MVP award isn't already boxed up and on the way to his house as we speak. And this realization is less about Luka
many games
and more
left,
about
bro?
the big
I got
picture
you in
of
the
the league
playoffs
right
up.
now. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around how much things have changed, and even harder to grasp how quickly they have changed.
Hey.
How can he be this
Water.
good and still be trailing behind multiple other players? If it wasn't for Embiid getting hurt, Luka could very well not even be within the top 5 on the MVP leaderboard, while averaging nearly a 34-point triple-double and being on pace for 48 wins. Which begs the question, what would a player in Luka's position need to do to win the MVP? With
One
the
more
6th
game.
seed, an underwhelming supporting cast, and a handful of generational superstars to contend with,
You got one
what
more
would
game.
be the
That is
equivalent
as simple
to
as
the
that.
2017 Westbrook triple-double season in 2024, where the numbers are just too absurd to ignore? 38, 10 and 10, maybe 40 points, 12 rebounds, and 12
Nah, he
assists
just got
a
one
night
more.
on league
Because I
high
guarantee
efficiency.
if the Mavericks was like the 3rd seed or the 2nd seed, he would have been in MVP conversations.
It sounds like hyperbole.
Even though he
but it's
can't,
not.
you feel me?
How
It's a
good
team
do you have
game,
to
but
be
yeah.
to win the MVP in today's NBA? When you put the bar as high as Luka did at such a young age, how much higher would you need to go for it to be impossible for fans and voters to ignore your efforts? Or is the MVP award still just the best player on the best team award?
Low key. But yeah, man, that's gonna do it for that boy Luka. I didn't know Luka was averaging that, man. Yeah, we gotta start talking about Luka more, bro. Cause I didn't even know he was averaging that. That's a quiet ass. You feel me? Yeah, that's impressive though, bro. But yeah, man, that's gonna do it for the video. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the vibe, man. Peace.